Only a Sith deals in absolutes, so call me Darth Musterman, because I am here to definitively tell you the most entertaining league to play in Football Manager. Using data collected over a series of simulations and comparing them to real-life statistics from FBref, I've taken a look at the tactical profile of the Big 5 leagues. Disclaimer time. Different sites use different methods and definitions when collating statistics. This is why you might see different XG values for a game depending on whether you use Opta, StatsBomb or Understat. If the specialists can't agree, it'd be unfair to expect that SI would somehow be the unifier. As a result, we will look at what the stats can tell us about a league's tactical identity rather than doing a direct statistical comparison. All stats presented here are averages per game, so 2 teams combined. For example, if every game finished 2-1, the average goals per game would be 3. With that out the way, let's take a look at the leagues, ranking them from least to most entertaining. Catenaccio, Ultras and match fixing. It can only be Italy. With a reputation for defensive solidity and tactical sparring, Serie A lived up to expectations in real life. Despite making the fewest combined defensive actions of any of the Big 5 leagues, it also featured the lowest goals per game rate and fewest passes in the final third. Chance quality was also the lowest, averaging 0.10 xG per chance. It's a game of compactness and attrition, and no one does it better than the Italians. Football Manager has got this absolutely spot on. This is a league of relatively little excitement, fewest shots, goals, and lowest chance quality. Not only does Serie A lead the way in number of pass attempts, they also have the highest proportion of what I like to call boring passes, with 77.7% of passes being neither progressive nor key. Italian football is definitely one for the purists, and that's why it belongs at the bottom of my list. What it lacks in entertainment, it makes up for in sideways passes. In 4th place, it's the Farmers League, Ligue 1. A weird disparagement considering agriculture is pretty important for providing food, you know, that thing we need to live. When talking about identity, Ligue 1 doesn't necessarily have a style that is specifically associated with it. But in the season just gone, they have a legitimate claim to be the most entertaining league of the lot. Ligue 1 attempted the most passes, had the highest pass completion rate, had the highest proportion of progressive passes and passes in the final third. They also had the highest XG per chance and most accurate shooting, and this wasn't against the backdrop of passive defences either, as they had the 3rd most combined defensive actions and 2nd most ball recoveries. That is all to say that they were very good on the ball and attacked with purpose. Unfortunately, this ranking is based on how the league is in Football Manager, and by contrast, Football Manager has done them dirty. The league is middle of the road, and many of the things that made Ligue 1 entertaining in real life do not translate into the game. In fact, in FM, Ligue 1 had the worst passing accuracy of the Big 5, despite also ranking low for defensive actions. It was also the league with the most overt dominance. PSG were the only team to win the title in every save, and only on 3 occasions was the margin in single figures. Next up, Germany. Home of heavy metal football, questionable goalkeeping, and distinctively hirsute leaders. At the time of filming, FBref do not record pressures as a metric, but other stats certainly do infer that the stereotypes of the German league as a pressing league ring true. Of the Big 5 leagues, the Bundesliga led the way in combined defensive actions, turnovers, and inaccurate passes. They also featured the most goals per game, and were in fact the only league to outscore their XG. Altogether, this paints a picture of a league that presses with intensity and looks to be direct in possession. In Football Manager, it's a bit of a mixed bag. The Bundesliga certainly claims its crown as kings of the Gegenpress. The most attempted pressures and combined defensive actions clearly mirror what happened in real life, whilst the number of free kicks and cards is indicative of the unrelenting, aggressive intensity. Where things start to deviate is goal scoring. In Football Manager, the Bundesliga had the 2nd lowest goals per game, and an inconsistency in scoring can be evidenced by 9 different players finishing as top scorer across the simulations. They also have the 2nd lowest key pass frequency, suggesting a slightly more cautious approach compared to their real-life counterparts. For the runners-up, we head to Spain, the home of tiki-taka. the footballing equivalent of all talk and no trousers. If talk is bad, does that mean trousers are good? Like, would the preferred outcome be no talk and all trousers? 1 second. We head to Spain, the footballing equivalent of all talk and an indeterminable amount of trousers. In real life, the stats were not pretty for La Liga, with the league excelling in very few categories, and those that they did were not ones you'd expect. Despite its reputation for a patient, possession-heavy approach, La Liga actually registered the fewest passes per game of any of the Big Five. They also scored the fewest goals and had the worst performance against XG, scoring roughly 7% below expectations. Where La Liga did stand out, however, was discipline, or lack thereof. Spain led the way in bookings, amassing 5.41 cards per game, 15% more than the next worst league. Football Manager has certainly been kinder than real life. Across the tests, Spain were the most clinical finishers, with the highest conversion rate and the second highest goals per game tally. They were also considerably more disciplined, amassing the fewest bookings of any league, which is no doubt directly related to the league also having the lowest figure for combined defensive actions. It helps to paint a picture of a league where players have plenty of time on the ball, much more like the tiki-taka stereotype that precedes it. There's only one league left, and that means the Premier League is objectively the best league. With a reputation for kick and rush football, what it lacks in technical quality it makes up for with attacking intent. Or not. In real life, the Premier League was arguably the least attacking, with only 9.2% of successful passes being progressive. In fact, the Premier League was, in real life, what Ligue 1 is in FM, completely nondescript. The fewest penalties awarded, fewest red cards issued, and fewest crosses, whilst the only metric in which the Premier League had the most was blocks. A jack-of-all-trades league, if you will. Football Manager paints a very different picture. Goals galore, highest progressive pass rate, highest proportion of passes in the final third, most key passes, all with the fewest passes per game. In fact, the only league that attempts fewer passes in-game than in real life. In FM, the Premier League is the very definition of kick and rush. Not just is there the attacking intent, but it's intense, with the most high-intensity sprints, successful dribbles, and pressure success. Whilst entertainment is subjective, the Premier League is the most exciting of the Big Five leagues in Football Manager. You might come away from this video saying that, according to stats, Football Manager does a poor job of representing real life, with huge disparities between performances in the game and those that actually occurred in the 22-23 season. What I would contend, however, is that Football Manager actually does a very good job of modelling the stereotypes and expectations associated with each of the Big Five leagues. There is an argument that managers are too dogmatic, sticking too closely to their principles and not adapting when the situation calls for it, and so you get the results we see here. What has been your experience managing in the Big Five? Which leagues have you found to be the most entertaining? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing for more FM content. If you're interested in taking a closer look at the dashboard used in this video, I have added the link in the description below. Until next time.